We are trying to augment the human intelligence within semiconductor in a programmatic manner. Google Assistant is powered by AI and machine learning kind of algorithm. Alexa or Siri are basically applications of AI. In fact, Google Search or Google Translate is also using machine learning.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us again. I'm your host, as usual, Pranay J. Reddy. Artificial intelligence. Now, that might be the word of the future, but trust me, it's more with us now than ever before. Cinemas have a way of vilifying artificial intelligence. We think of artificial intelligence and we think, oh my god, that's the thing which is going to make us extinct, or that's the thing which is going to make us slaves. You want to know how I know that? Because remember a time when we predicted 2020 would be a great year. How'd that turn out? Granted, that could possibly happen. Artificial intelligence could be our undoing, or rather our doom. But there's a very, very small percentage of probability for that to happen, and there need to be a lot of breakthroughs for that to even take place. Artificial intelligence isn't something of the future, it's something which influences our lives right now. Those recommendation musics you get, on Wink or whatever music apps you use? That's based on artificial intelligence. Even your search engines use artificial intelligence. There are many various forms of artificial intelligence. It's not just that terminated robot which comes back from the future. So for an intelligence which is part of our lives already, I think we need to understand it better. That is why, let's start with what artificial intelligence is and also see all the various areas it influences us in our very own life. So to understand and to discuss that, we brought in an expert today.
Mr. Utpal Chakraborty. He is the head of artificial intelligence at Yes Bank. His research areas include data science and artificial intelligence. He has helped and mentored in IITs, IIMs, and universities in the research in machine learning, deep learning, and computer vision and cognitive studies. And he is also a TEDx speaker. He is also well known for researching and speaking and writing in AI. He's attended many premier conferences. He has been a part of many workshops and guest lectures. He has many technical articles to his name, and he has written 2 books on AI. Now that's a bit about our guest. Let's move on to the interview.
Mr. Utpal, thank you so much for joining us today. I know thank you for taking the time to be with us on our show, and I'm really glad that you're here on the show with us.
Thank you very much.
So, for people who know you and also for people who don't know you, I'd like to first mention that he's a data scientist and an AI researcher. And that is a really wide field, sir, to be honest, to be have your hands in both of them. And so first for all of us, in your opinion, or rather in your own definition, how do you define artificial intelligence?
Artificial intelligence is an umbrella term. So there are a couple of technologies comes under artificial intelligence. One of them popularly known as machine learning. So the machine learning is where we are trying to teach the machine, okay, from the previous experience or from the data. There is another technology which also comes under artificial intelligence, NLP, natural language processing, which is again how human interacts basically with different languages. Within machine learning, we have a vertical called deep learning using neural networks. So neural networks are again we are trying to mimic the human brain, how human brain works within semiconductor programmatically. So these are some of the technologies which comes under artificial intelligence. And to define artificial intelligence, basically there are many definitions actually. I'll not go into that, but we are trying to augment the human intelligence within semiconductor in a programmatic manner.
That is a key thing you mentioned is how we are trying to mimic the human brain. So we are considered as, can we call us a natural intelligence? We are, right?
Yes, we can.
We can, yeah. So although intelligence doesn't apply to a lot of us people, but we are natural intelligence. But my point is, when we try to mimic a human brain, but the artificial intelligence, for some reason, or rather people claim it to be much more smarter, intelligent than us. Why is that?
Yeah, so it is smarter for a particular task or a particular domain. So probably I'll give you an example. So there is something called ImageNet competition, okay, wherein like an AI algorithm can basically detect any image, okay, better than a human. Uh, there are many other applications wherein, for example, in computer games. So again, AI can play a computer game better than human. But that is only specific to that particular domain. AI still doesn't have the the cross domain capabilities. Although probably it is performing something much better than human, but it doesn't have the awareness what exactly it is doing. Neither it can bring in experience from some other domain, or uh, bring in experience from some other field, which we human can do pretty well. Yes, it is intelligent in some of the aspects, but not in all the others. So still, human brain is much more superior than artificial intelligence. If you look at the capabilities in terms of working in different domains, bringing experience from different domains, and the other qualities like love, empathy, okay, feeling for the others. So those things are still not there in artificial intelligence, and that's where we call artificial intelligence still now is operating in a narrow domain. So that's why it's called narrow AI. But human brain has a lot more capabilities, okay, in terms of we can imagine something which we have never experienced, right? Like our dreams or our imagination, probably we have never experienced those kind of things, but still we can build those kind of scenarios within our mind, within our brain, kind of thing. So those things are called the general intelligence. So the general intelligence is still missing in AI. Yeah.
So you said one thing, which is now we are much more intelligent than an artificial intelligence system because it's narrow, it's limited to one particular point. But is it possible in the future, like all the sci-fi movies predict, that artificial intelligence can become much more smarter than us?
Yeah. So future, definitely. I mean, it is difficult to say what is going to happen in future. But to arrive at that kind of an intelligence will require a lot many breakthroughs. Okay, because the technology that we have right now has a lot limitations, and to overcome those limitations, definitely will require some more breakthroughs. Okay, so with the current technology, definitely it is not going to happen in near future. But in long-term future, nobody knows. I mean, people are working on interfacing human brain with semiconductor, with AI, and all those things. So probably, but right now, if you talk about the artificial intelligence that we have in our hand and which we are using into different scientific research or into different business domains, no, it is not possible. What has been shown into this sci-fi movies. Yeah.
No, I want to make this very clear. The reason why I asked is not so that we can predict what's going to happen, but it's because any person who's part of the field has a very similar answer to yours. It's like it's hard to predict. There's a lot of things need to happen. But any person who's not part of the field, they say, "Oh yeah, AI is going to take over. That's what's going to cause us to become extinct." So that is why I wanted to ask and get your opinion, what your thoughts on it were. So moving on from that, I find this basic misconception that AI is something extraordinary. But I don't think people realize AI is already a part of our lives. So can you give us a few examples of how it is already, part of our lives right now?
Yeah, so there are many applications which are using artificial intelligence today. So popular ones, probably it is there in your all Android phone, is Google Assistant. Google Assistant is powered by AI and machine learning kind of algorithm. Similarly, any other devices like Alexa or Siri are basically applications of AI. In fact, Google Search or Google Translate is also using machine learning in the background, or some of the complicated deep learning models. any kind of ads that you see in Amazon, or any kind of product recommendations that you see in Amazon and all other shopping or e-commerce sites are basically recommendation engines which are again built uh, using AI. Now, other applications are in a bank also. I mean, if you are using any banking applications, any kind of chatbot, if you are doing any kind of transactions, probably sending money, booking a fixed deposit, booking recurring deposit, or something like that. So those are also AI powered. Okay, so it is there. So I think it is there. I mean, it is in many aspects of our life. It is already there. I mean, you can keep talking. So in last 3-4 years, it has already been penetrated almost all types of industries and all aspects of our life.
Well, again, the reason we want to ask is that it's not something which is so spectacular, but it's very simple because it's already a part of our lives. AI, which we have right now. And one thing which really intrigued me is how different companies or different industries make use of AI. And one of the industries really intrigued me was how banking uses AI. Banking as an industry, they use AI to, I honestly don't know what they use for, which is why I wanted to ask you, like, how do they use AI in banking industry?
Yeah, so in the banking, there are many applications, in fact, and already many banks, Western banks, as well as banks in India, are using artificial intelligence into their mainstream applications and customer-facing applications. So a very popular example is the chatbots. So most of the banks have their chatbots. So chatbot is a NLP-powered engine, and also some of the deep learning models are running behind the scene. And today you can do almost anything and everything using a chatbot, right? So that is one. Then, as you ask in banking, so some of the other very popular applications are fraud detection. So any kind of fraudulent activities that can occur during the transaction, so probably the credit card transaction, can automatically detected by machine learning kind of models, which is very difficult to detect using conventional approach, because the fraudsters, okay, they are also evolving, okay, they are also maturing, and they are coming up with newer and newer techniques. So any kind of rule-based systems doesn't work in this kind of scenario. But machine learning is an adaptive model, okay, so it can automatically learn by itself, looking at the patterns. So here machine learning plays a crucial role. Similarly, for any kind of anti-money laundering, any kind of illegal money entering into your banking system, and then probably it has been used for different kind of illegal activities like terrorist funding, then any kind of illegal activities. Those can be easily traced using machine learning models. We are doing that. Other applications are there are some what you call interesting applications, like nowadays by doing video analytics or the streaming data that is coming from your CCTV camera in your ATM or in your locker, so you can easily identify whether there is illegal intrusion happening, some human intrusion or some animal intrusion. Sometimes in I mean rural areas, even animal intrusion happens inside your bank ATM, or any kind of violent activities is happening in your ATM. Somebody is trying to destroy your ATM and all things. Can be easily detected, and real-time alert can be sent to the administrators so that they can take action on that. There are applications on cyber security in banking, because security is one of the major concern for any kind of banks. And in cyber security area, there are applications where the AI algorithm can detect any kind of cyber crime much more easily than any other conventional system. So that is there. Then any kind of document processing kind of systems, like if I want to process your loan very fast in a very faster manner, and I want to disburse your loan within a couple of minutes, then definitely I require a very efficient system in the backend. to check your credit score, to check all other things, and then process the loan and give you loan very, very quickly, probably processing your documents and all. So this is again powered by AI machine learning kind of things in the back end, which will process the things in a faster manner. Other areas like any kind of insurance claim kind of thing. So now, normally in a conventional manner, any kind of insurance claiming, okay, when the hospital gets the money from the bank or the insurance company, it takes a lot of time. Okay, now there are faster methods using AI and all, wherein the tag or the lead time for doing those kind of processing become very, very less, and which is impacting the life of the customers. So customers are getting more and more delighted. Then offering you different products as per your need, as per your requirement, as per your personality, and all those things. Those are also very, very popular nowadays, using different types of machine learning algorithms. So I can recommend products which are suitable for you, okay, not a generic product. So, and that's what it is happening in many of the banks. Coming to payments, so payments now has been, I mean, payments options are now been embedded within the customer journey. Okay, so payments are seamless, and it is going to be more seamless in coming years. And not only the normal payments within the border of the country, but the cross-border transactions. So normally you see the cross-border transactions are a little bit complicated and time-consuming, but using this AI machine learning kind of algorithms and different methods, the cross-border transactions will also on this kind of things will be much more easier in future. So these are few examples, in fact. So there are many things, and you can keep talking on that. But the adoption of artificial intelligence into banking and finance is great, and we're expecting that it is going to be even more in future.
First off, sir, like those were just a few examples. I mean, that didn't it cover most of banking as we know it? Like, so what that means, like, this could potentially make, people in the banking system obsolete, won't it?
No, it's not like that. So that's what, again, I will have to come back to the same thing what I have answered. So you can, it can take only a small part of the human element, but still there are many things wherein the human element is very, very important, and those things will not be able to, I think, replaced by any kind of machine. May it be AI or anything comes in future. It's not so easy. Yeah, but yeah, any kind of automation will slowly and gradually take some of the mundane or some of the repetitive work that human are doing. So that is the nature of any kind of automation, and that is not only happening today using AI, but it has been happening from the historical perspective, from industrial revolution, from IT revolution. Same thing is happening, but it's still the human element is very, very important in many of the aspects, and those cannot be eliminated so easily, at least with the technologies that we have in our hand right now.
So while I'm glad that the humans are still needed, but that would also mean it opens up a sector for people who need to build more AIs and maintain these systems. So I guess that would be a much more open sector in the coming days. And so, in your opinion, how do you think that sector is fared in the banking area?
Yeah, so I mean, AI in banking is no different than AI in any other industries on a technological front, except for banking or finance is a highly regulated area, wherein anything and everything you do, it is not only AI, anything and everything you do, it needs to follow certain policies, certain norms, sometimes certain rules. So that is the only difference. Otherwise, I mean, AI applications, mostly the AI applications built for any industries. I think most of the things are the same. Now, coming to maintaining the AI applications, yes, of course, you do require to maintain those applications. Probably sometimes train and retain those applications time to time, or you can have a feedback mechanism wherein it gets trained automatically. So those things are there, but still there will be the maintainability part is still there, like any other application. And I think going in future, things will be a little bit different. Like now with transfer learning and all those things. So probably some of the vendors or some of the providers will provide different AI components which are specialized in a particular thing. So probably, for example, a calculator. Okay, so probably a complicated calculator, some provider can build AI calculator with all kind of calculations. So it can have all kind of banking calculations or scientific calculations or the calculations which are required, calculators which are required for our day-to-day life. Okay, and it's a specialized component, and they have trained it with all types of data and all. So tomorrow probably you need not have to build your own calculator. Okay, so you can even just get a service from that particular calculator and integrate it in your system, because that calculator is again much more mature. So you may not have to reinvent the wheel. So they keep on training that calculator. They keep on maturing that calculator more and more kind of thing. So you just get the service and use it somewhere. So that's how the AI components or AI applications are going to be. Probably a day will come when it is only a matter of integration. Okay? So you do not have to build everything from there. So most of the known components will be available somewhere, and people will make it so mature by training and all those things that you will have no other way but you will have to take that services, because again, if you start building it and again training it, you require a huge amount of data, and then you need to do all kind of hyperparameter tuning to make it perfect and all. So those things, things will be taken care of by somebody. So you need to just take the service and use it.
Well, moving away a bit from convenience, like you say, AI is still a major part of the system security, and also about assessing who are credible and who are not. So, does a human error play any part in this, or is it completely handled by AI right now? Because, I'm pretty sure there are many cases of fraud and maybe even hacking into the systems, which is expected because so many people are trying to do it. So there will be a probability of one or two sneaking past the system. So I just wanted to know, is that a fault of the AIs or is that a fault of human error?
Yes, so I'll give you this answer in a different way. So even for any AI applications, you cannot expect that 100% of the things that it will process in the right way. Okay, so there will be exceptions here also. So if you are doing any kind of predictions or you are doing any kind of things with AI, so you can expect some percentage of the things will go into the exception queue or the error queue. So there are different techniques how to handle those exceptions, so that or how to retrain the AI model with those kind of exceptions, so that next time it encounters the similar kind of exception, it can handle it. So those things are there. So even in kind of a fraudulent activity happening somewhere or something is happening, even there is an AI system deployed there. So you can't say it is a human error or a machine error kind of thing. So even human can do an error, and machine can also do. But the beauty of the machine is basically, once it is trained and once it encounters that kind of a problem, it will not going to do the same kind of mistake. But exceptions will be there. So some probably the machine when it was trained, it has not at all encountered that kind of a scenario. Okay, so there is a probability that in that case it can throw it into an exception queue. So normally that's why while building any kind of AI application, we maintain that exception queue diligently, and normally there is to be a human approval process. Okay, so there is a human verification process, okay, wherever there is a critical kind of thing. So the normal things will definitely processed by AI, okay, wherein the accuracy rate is probably more than 95% or 98%. But when it goes beyond the threshold limit of accuracy, at that point of time, you throw it to an exception queue, wherein a human verification expert is asked to basically review that and then only approve that. Okay, so that mechanism is there. So those things are taken care of, but in most of the industries, in fact. But definitely, to answer your question, even machine can do an error. But the beauty is, if you could teach it once that okay, this is an error and you need to handle it in this way, so probably next time it will not handle. Next time it will not be not throwing that as an exception. It will be able to handle it well.
Well, that is a thoroughly reassuring answer, sir. And I guess one last thing I want to ask you is, yes, I understood, and I'm pretty sure the viewers understood as well how banking incorporates AI into its everyday life and how AI itself is a part of our everyday life right now. But one thing I want to ask is, many people who studied artificial intelligence or even heard of this have heard of the term black box. So the black box is basically, from my understanding, it's a case of neural networks, which is where we do not know where and when the signals are going and coming from. It's kind of like what happens inside of our brain. So I wanted to ask you, how much have we understood the black box and how do you get to learn more from it?
Yeah, so it is not at all a black box. In fact, I mean, if you ask any data scientist, so you will definitely say it is not at all a black box. So I'll give you a little bit longer answer. So normally with artificial intelligence, we are trying to augment different human senses. Okay, right? So the visual sense or the speech, or so these are the two popular kind of things. So let's take the example of visual part or the computer vision that we call. So how we actually see anything. Okay. So normally, if you look at anything, then light rays basically falls on that particular object, and that reflects back and goes to our retina. From retina, it falls into our visual cortex.
Yes.
So in visual cortex, what happens? The light rays are basically converted into electrical signals. And after it is converted into electrical signals, it falls into the different layers of neurons. Okay, so neurons is basically the core of our what you call the human intelligence system.
Yeah.
You can say.
It's kind of like
So correct. So neurons are basically a specialized type of cell where it works in a very what do you call amazing manner. So whenever this electrical signals falls into these neurons, the protein synthesis basically starts within the neuron. Okay, so it's a chemical reaction. It happens, and when chemical reaction happens, then again the potential difference it starts increasing. Okay, because it is an electrical signal. And at one threshold limit, okay, then electrical signal is fired to the next neuron. And if the electrical signal that falls on that particular neuron is not strong enough to create that kind of a potential difference, it will not be able to fire that.
Yeah.
So now, whatever we see, okay, so this what do you call millions and millions of light rays coming into, and those are converted into electrical signals and falling into millions of neurons there. And layer after layer, these electrical signals are processed in this threshold kind of mechanism, right? And at the end, there is a decision-making layer kind of thing. Okay? And where it identifies, okay, this is the image. So it creates a different electrical image in the decision-making layer. And then somebody tells you, oh, okay, that is an elephant, okay, or that is a cow. And that image is stacked as cow or elephant inside your brain. So next time you look at an elephant or a cow, so automatically the same thing happens. Okay, but this time nobody needs to identify that there is an elephant or something like that, because it's already tagged in your brain. So automatically you identify that, okay, oh fine, so this is an elephant. Yesterday I have seen it. So the same thing we're trying to do in semiconductor programmatically. Okay? So in programmatically also we have got artificial neurons. Okay? And we send something called weights and biases. Okay? So these weights and biases are nothing but you can call it a matrix. Okay, matrix elements, and there is something called activation function, which is nothing but the threshold function in the neuron. Okay, so in neuron, the threshold function is basically when the electrical signal crosses that particular limit. So here also there is activation function when the value goes beyond the threshold limit, it automatically fires it to the next neuron. Okay, so similarly, it goes into a last layer, okay, where the decision is made. And if the decision is wrong, so we have got something called a back propagation mechanism, wherein we train the network in from the backward to forward, okay, so that it what do you call identifies the things in a correct manner. Okay, so it is not at all a black box for data scientists. This is all mathematical, and you can really derive the mathematical equations out of that. You can see you can do all kind of what do you call hyperparameter tuning to tune your neural network so that it works in a particular manner. So there are different variants of neural networks. In fact, there are hundreds of variants of neural network, and even you can also build some different variant of neural network tomorrow. So, but most popular are CNN, which is convolutional neural network, which are mainly used for what do you call image detection or image identification kind of thing. And there are another variant which is called recurrent neural network, which are recurrent neural networks are mostly for any kind of text processing, any kind of voice processing kind of thing. So the Google Translate that you are using, that is also nothing but a neural network, a variant of a recurrent neural network called LSTM. So and it has been trained with huge amount of data, and it can translate whatever text you give into the desired text in a particular language. So it is not a black box once you understand the subject, once you go depth into the subject.
Well, the reason why I asked that is because when there's few neurons, yes, we can find that out. But I've read that if there's a lot many neurons, or rather artificial neurons, my bad, not brain neurons, artificial neurons in the neural network, it's hard to conceive or predict where it'll go and which chain it takes. That's why I asked you that question. So I'm assuming that, yeah, please go on.
Yeah, the complexity increases as the number of layers increases. So definitely, but it is not a black box. So black box is something which is like a magic. We don't understand. So something input came and we get some output. Okay, so that is magic. We don't know what is happening in that black box. But here the complexity increases. Definitely, there are many other aspects. So as I told you, like hyperparameter tuning, so you can tune different hyperparameters. Even how many intermediary hidden layers you will require. That is also there are methods to decide, and there are things to decide that. So definitely there are complexities, but it's not black box. So black box is something like you are unaware of what is happening inside. It is not at all like that.
Well, I'm definitely glad that I had this conversation with you, because they cleared up a lot of concepts for me personally, and I'm pretty sure it made all of our viewers aware of all the things which are misconceptions until now. And hey, they even learned of a new field which they can go into right now. We can be a data scientist in banking industry. Who knew? So thank you so much for doing this. It was really, really knowledgeable, and I really learned a lot from it. I'm pretty sure the viewers did as well. So thank you for being on the show with me.
Thank you very much.
Now, after watching that interview, I hope you understood artificial intelligence better, and I hope we demystified of some of the false perceptions we ourselves have had of artificial intelligence. Now, more than that, I hope you recognize the growth this industry has in the future, and also the scope for any one of us to be a part of it, or even for those Terminator robots to have been placed in the future. I'll give you an example. Even for Terminator to be born, a human created it, so you could end up creating it if you wanted. My point is, there's a tremendous scope in the near future for artificial intelligence, and we all could potentially be a part. So, I hope this episode was informative for you, and I really hope it gave you a better idea and perspective on AI. So do like, share and subscribe. Thank you so much.